Hey, 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 that works, cool. We'll go ahead and get started. I know people are eating and digesting and wandering in from lunch, so it'll be an interesting thing. My name is Tom Anderson, and I did not invent the title of this presentation, but it is Spreading the Love. Goes along with the video theme you saw yesterday. What we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about the 10K Developer Commitment Program and the Built for BlackBerry program. I also have with me today Nancy McMillan. There's Nancy right up here. Nancy is the project manager who basically got this thing to happen. So any questions that you've got about this program between the two of us, we can cover them all. Before we talk about the program, I want you to tell you a little bit about the background, because the program is really an extension of what you saw yesterday in the keynote. Alex Saunders talked about how much BlackBerry is committed to the developer, and we have really made a huge commitment to the developer. Alex's organization is currently over 100 people around the globe. This includes people like me, developer evangelists. This includes application developer consultants, project managers, technical advisors, marketing people, all kinds of people, all focused on one thing: you, the developer. We're all here to make your experience with BlackBerry 10 as successful as possible. To that end, we've done some pretty incredible things. When the BlackBerry Playbook came out, we realized that you need devices in order to do testing. So after the release of the BlackBerry Playbook, we started seeding devices. To date, we continue to seed devices for BlackBerry Playbook, and we've seeded over 20,000 BlackBerry Playbooks out there for people to develop. We got feedback from the developers. They said, hey, that's great. We really like having the playbooks to develop on, but it would have been great if you'd given them to us before the launch. So we took that to heart and said, super, we're coming out with BlackBerry 10. We'll develop Dev Alpha devices and get Dev Alpha devices into your hands before the launch. We gave away 5,000 Dev Alpha devices last May at BlackBerry Jam, and that was supposed to be the only run. They were incredibly popular. Everybody's been asking for them, so we have another 5,000 we've been giving out here to the developers. Getting your hands on devices so you can test prior to. Now, this was not an easy thing for RIM to do. We shut down our production line of phones to build these devices just for you, because that's what you told us you wanted. You also told us you wanted transparency in our schedules. You're building your applications around our APIs. You need to know when those APIs are available, because we're still in the beta process. So we have the flight boards. The flight boards are up there to tell you exactly when the APIs are going to be there. Full transparency into the schedule. So RIM is doing this all for the development of the developer. Couple application statistics. Marketing asked me to throw this in for you. We currently have over 100,000 apps available in the app world. App world is growing. Its unique downloads have grown over 54% in the last year. People are still downloading BlackBerry applications. They're buying BlackBerry applications. It's a vibrant community. We have over 3 billion downloads, and we got from 2 billion to 3 billion in just the last 6 months. So, I don't have the chart here, but it's an upward graph. The more downloads are happening, more and more and more. We have an industry-leading reach. We have over 80 million subscribers to the BlackBerry platform. App World is in 170 countries with 24 different languages. So your application is truly a global application. And as I'm sure you've heard a couple of times, people make more money on BlackBerry. Here's the charts from the Vision Mobile, August 2012. Over there on the left is the average revenue per app month across the lower 95. So we knock out the big boys who are making the plays, more the independent developers. We see that BlackBerry on a whole makes about $3,853 per app month, as opposed to $3,693 for iOS, $2,735 for Android, etc. So you make a little bit more money than you did on iOS. You make quite a bit more money than you do on Android. And you've probably heard this statistic. It's been bantered around. But my favorite one is the other chart that shows the development costs. It's much easier to develop for the BlackBerry platform. Because we have the multiple paths, multiple roadways to get to BlackBerry, you can take your assets, you can take your knowledge and bring it to the BlackBerry platform. You don't have to learn a new language. So we see it's almost half as expensive to develop for the BlackBerry platform as it is to develop for that other platform. So along these lines, we've built this entire group, this entire organization to support the developers. Out of this group has come these two programs, the 10K developer commitment. We realize that BlackBerry is a new platform. I mean, really, BlackBerry 10, you've seen it. It's revolutionary in how it works. It's an entirely new platform from the ground up. That's a little scary. So what we want to do is take a little bit of that fear away. So we have the 10K developer commitment. In a nutshell, this is what it is. Your application is going to make at least $10,000 in the first 12 months you have it in the store, or we'll pay that for you. It's like an insurance policy. It's like a cushion. Basically, you know that if you develop a BlackBerry 10 application that's available at launch, in the first 12 months, you're going to get at least $10,000. We're betting you're going to get it from the users, but if you don't, you'll get it from us. Now, I've got my little splat there because there are some terms and conditions that apply, the legalese, all that kind of good stuff. And we'll talk about that in just a couple of minutes. So, how do we get into the 10K program? Well, it's pretty darn easy. First, you need to register as a vendor. How many of you are already vendors in App World? Okay, most of you already done step one. Check. Register as a vendor. You just need to go out to the developer.blackberry.com, click that little register button, up, you can't see that, up there, right? Fill out the information. It's free. Doesn't cost you anything to register as a vendor. Step two, register for signing keys. All applications need signing keys so we can verify who it's from, where it goes, etc. You'll get signing keys. It doesn't take long. Usually it's with about a half hour, but we say at least 2 hours. You register for the signing keys, you get them down. You're now ready to develop your application, sign your application. You can also use the signing keys to develop debug tokens, so you can get applications on your debug devices. Build your application. Duh, right? The nice thing is you can build the application with the SDK of your choice. Like we said, all roads lead to BlackBerry 10. If you're a C++ guy or gal and developer, we've got the native SDK for you. Any of you who've been in the Cascades framework sessions and have seen the cool things you can do with Cascades, that works as well. JavaScript, HTML5 developers, if you've got a web application right now, you can turn it into, through our WebKit, you can turn it into a full-blown BlackBerry application. And if you've got an Adobe Air application or you want to build an Adobe Air, that qualifies as well. Any of these platforms can be used to build a BlackBerry 10 application that will qualify for the 10K developer commitment. Fourth, you submit your app to BlackBerry World. BlackBerry World has a level of testing that it's going to go through and make sure that your application works and does all that kind of good stuff. Basically the same process you go through today, and it becomes available in BlackBerry World. Once it becomes available in BlackBerry World and it's been approved, then you request Built for BlackBerry testing. This is an additional level of testing that your application will go through. So Built for BlackBerry testing is a separate program, but related. So you can have applications that are built for BlackBerry and may not be in the 10K program, because as you'll see, the 10K program is only for applications that get submitted before a certain date, but the Built for BlackBerry program continues on. So what exactly is the Built for BlackBerry program? Well, it's a way for us to identify applications that really take advantage of BlackBerry 10 and really shine under BlackBerry 10. It allows us to showcase applications that take advantage of flow, that take advantage of the new concepts we have in BlackBerry 10. And because those applications that are built for BlackBerry and qualify for Built for BlackBerry show off BlackBerry 10 so well, chances are a Built for BlackBerry app is going to have increased visibility in our user community. You'll have a logo you can put on your website to say, hey, my application is built for BlackBerry. Us as BlackBerry, those are the applications we're going to want to talk about. I'm going to want to talk about Built for BlackBerry apps when I sit in press meetings, because those are the apps that really shine on BlackBerry 10. Our social guys like Alex Kinsella, I'm sure everybody knows Alex, right? He's going to tweet about those apps. We may see them in digital media or direct marketing, right? Because those are the apps that really shine. So getting a Built for BlackBerry qualified application really helps out both you and us as BlackBerry to help your application become more successful. Oh, and did I mention it's free? For a limited time, the Built for BlackBerry testing is going to be free between now and basically launch. Past that, we're going to review the program and see what it is. So you want to be able to get these in now. In order to qualify for a Built for BlackBerry application, you basically have to qualify in, we'll say 5 different areas, and we'll talk about games a little bit. Games have got a little oddities to them. The 5 areas are user benefits, user experience, performance, service integration, security, and then, like I said, we'll talk about games. Games have got a couple extra things that we want to talk about. So when we talk about user benefit is pretty simple. We're looking for applications that provide entertainment, that provide productivity, that provide good communication. Because after all, that's what BlackBerry is all about, right? BlackBerry is about that productivity. BlackBerry is about getting you to be more productive, more efficient, or more entertained. Simple little apps that maybe display a single picture or make a rude noise, those aren't good BlackBerry built for BlackBerry apps. So those apps aren't going to be qualified. Here's some examples. Over here on the left, we've got a picture viewing and sharing application. Very simple application, allows you to scroll through your pictures, share those pictures out. All right? Good entertainment, a little bit of communication in there. This one qualifies. In the middle, we've got, looks like a messaging application or a mailbox application. Again, all about communication, getting the messages across. Again, for the user experience, this is a good application. And over here on the far right, we've got the calculator. Calculator is a very good built for BlackBerry application. After all, it's very easy. It provides you with enhanced productivity. Make sure that you leave the right tip or whatever, right? Do the right math. So these are all good applications for the built for BlackBerry program. The user experience is the second area that we want to talk about. And the user experience we break down into several different areas. One is built for the form factor. We want to see applications that take advantage of the size of the device that it's on. Whether it's on the BlackBerry 10, well, I guess it would be the Dev Alpha, right? Or the other devices. It needs to take advantage of that, whether it's in landscape or whether it's in portrait. You need to utilize the real estate properly. An application that maybe is in portrait mode that fills a whole screen and then goes into landscape and it's got two big white bars next to it, doesn't really use the real estate properly. You want to make sure you utilize that full real estate. You want to focus on the content. The screen should be uncluttered. It's all about the content. In BlackBerry and BlackBerry 10, content is king. We want to make sure that that content is delivered. That's one of the reasons why we have the cinematic experience, giving you developers access to every single pixel on the screen with nothing reserved for us, the system. So you want to make sure that you focus on the content. Screen should be uncluttered and easy to access. You want to use gestures and flow. You saw flow in the demonstration, the keynote yesterday, about how you seamlessly move from one application to another. Your application may have multiple screens. You want to use flow to flow between those screens. Simple gestures to remove any barriers to work through your application. You want to have good, solid application navigation. One of my pet peeves with applications is every time they come up with a new function, they throw it on a menu up on the main screen, right? You may use that function once every 10 times you use that application, but it's always there in your face. For Built for BlackBerry, we want to make sure that you think about your navigation in a very intelligent way. Frequently used actions should be easy to get to. Less frequently, go to an overflow menu and make sure that you've got them accessible, but they don't need to be up in front so they're not cluttered. There's also a whole bunch of UI and UX guidelines out there to help you get that right look and feel for the navigation. So you want to abide by the BlackBerry 10X UX guidelines. You also want to use progress feedback. So if you've got a download, if you've got some processing going on, you need to provide feedback. We all know that, right? I mean, how many times you clicked on an app and you don't get anything and you're like, did that do something? So you need to provide the feedback. But not only do you need to provide the feedback, but you need to use the BlackBerry 10 progress meters so that it gets the same BlackBerry 10 look. Now on this slide, we also have a couple other interesting things. We've got little blue boxes and little blue game controllers. That's there, and you'll see them on the website, to tell you which of these are required for applications and which of these are required for games. So notice, for instance, that if we look at application navigation, having a good BlackBerry UI guideline application navigation is critical for your app. It's not required for your game, because games sometimes are very stylized to the style of game, right? A kid's game is very cartoony, very simple colors. We want to make sure that you can keep that application flow when you talk about your games. Here's an example. I've used the calculator before. I'll use it again. This is a good example of built for form factor. Those of you who have your Dev Alphas A's and B's, right? You can do this with the calculator today. It's really kind of groovy. You bring up the calculator in portrait mode, and you've got your basic function calculator. You flip it over into landscape mode, and all of a sudden you've got a scientific calculator. It's really a great use of the form factor. So in this way, the calculator takes advantage of the extra space and allows you to get added and additional functionality. As a user of the calculator, you know that. So you know when you bring up the app, you're like, oh, you know what, I'm going to need some statistical functions. You flip it over. So it's a great example of built for form factor. Focus on content. Here we've got our applications that we saw before, but now let's look at how they focus on content. The one on the left, again, the left, yeah. It's about sharing pictures. So therefore, the content is about the picture. So if you're about sharing these pictures, you want a way to be able to see the picture and share it, and that's about it. The rest can go on an overflow menu. It's all focused about the content. The messaging app, most of the real estate is taken up with the email messages, all about the content. And the calculator, well, the calculator is about doing functions. It's about interacting with those buttons, add, subtract, multiply, and divide. So again, the content is key. Not a lot of clutter, not a lot of bordering or gingerbreading. It's all about focusing on the content, because content is king. The gestures and flow, gestures and flow is about the BlackBerry 10 user experience. It's about making the application seamless with the system. It's about taking away those barriers to the user. The brilliant example we have is the keyboard. If you've played around with the keyboard on your Dev Alpha devices, it's an incredible experience. The way the keyboard works is it does predictive text, right? Everybody knows about predictive text. But the interesting thing about the BlackBerry 10 keyboard is the predictive text isn't only based on a dictionary, it's also based on your writing styles. So your documents, your emails, your BBMs. So when we do a predictive text, we don't necessarily predict what word would come next based on 3 letters. We predict what word would come next based on 3 letters and what words you most commonly use. So the predictive text on my phone is different than the predictive text on your phone, because it's all about that personalization and removing those barriers. And having the words pop up over the next key, I mean, that's just simple removing of obstacles. My thumb is moving there anyways to type the next character. So if my thumb is there, that's where I should select the predictive text. So gestures and flow is about removing those obstacles and making this beautiful flowing experience, focusing on the content that you have there. The application navigation, there's our kitty cat in here. I'm a dog guy myself, but you know. We have the kitty cat here. Again, like I said, this is about application sharing, right? This is about image sharing. So we've got the image, we've got the share button. But there's other things you can do with images, right? You can delete them, you can edit them, you can save them, you can move them. But since this application is focused on the sharing, that's what we have up front. If we click the little 3 dots, the overflow menu, that's where we get the other overflow situation. So now we can go there, and here we can see things like turn it into a slideshow, play it on a certain device, rotate it, etc. So the context menu is there for the extra items, and this context menu is not a random list of items. We also have a way through the BlackBerry UX and UI guidelines of how you want to structure this context menu. For instance, notice the location of the delete button, all the way down at the bottom. If you look on your Dev Alphas, every item that's got a delete function is always going to be on the bottom of the menu. Things like that of the UX guidelines allow users to learn your application before they even see your application, and easy to interact with. And we've got structures on how we want these context menus to look. We also measure in performance. No big surprise. If you got a build for BlackBerry application that's showing off BlackBerry 10, we want it to really sing. So we look at the CPU, the memory, the network, and the battery. Basically, no big surprises here, right? Use the CPU intelligently. When we talk about intelligent use of CPU, that means we're going to be monitoring how the application uses CPU. If it grabs a bunch of cycles and keeps it real high, we're not going to be happy with that. But there are times when you need a lot of CPU, right? So if you peak with the CPU and drop back down, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for how your application manages these resources. Does it grab a bunch of memory that it doesn't necessarily need and hang on to that memory? That's not a well-behaved application. We may see increases in network usage and drops in network uses. Battery life, right? Do you have a GPS application? Does your GPS application maybe only care where you are once every 5 minutes, but you're polling every second? That's going to drain the battery life, right? So we want to see how we do on the battery life as well. So these metrics, the CPU, the memory, the network, and the battery, it's about being a good citizen on the device. It's about using the resources that you need and releasing the ones that you don't need. Part of BlackBerry 10 is this flow and the integration with the system. One of the things we want to do for the Built for BlackBerry applications is we want them to feel like part of the device. As Torsten said in his, or maybe Alex said it, but I think it was Torsten said, you know, we're getting away from the poke, right? Load an app. Okay, what do I do now? Home screen, load an app. And we're getting into the flow, where users may not even know they're in your application, but maybe you had a notification in the BlackBerry hub, and they got to their application that way. In order to do that, you need to integrate with BlackBerry 10. Applications are required to have at least one service integration. Our services include all of these. Our payment services. So if you're selling digital goods, you have in-app purchases, etc., hook them up through our payment service. That qualifies as your service integration. We also have the BBM Social Platform. We talked about, or they talked about at the keynote, how applications that are written to take advantage of BBM are downloaded more frequently than any other applications. In fact, I was talking this morning with my compatriot Patrick Mullins, and he told me that about 2% of the applications in App World today are integrated with BBM, but those 2% of the applications are responsible for 20% of the downloads in App World. So integrating with BBM is really a strong way to get your application to go viral and get it downloaded more. An integration may be as simple as posting a status update, or you may be getting contact information, or sending text and images back and forth. We also have an advertising service. So if you want to integrate with ads, you want to have an ad-based revenue model, let us worry about the advertising. You guys worry about the application. We have analytics service that allows you to take a look, figure out how the users are using your application, maybe tweak it as needed. We have a locate service, right? GPS location and cell tower triangulation. So if you want to know where the phone is, where the device is, you can use the location service and integrate in that way. And the mapping service too. So you can show what's around the user. You can locate the user within the map. And of course push, right? The push service, which is where your application's in the background and you get notifications that pop up for the user to be able to see what's going on. Of course, you know, I always like to caution people, you know, push service is great until it gets a little overused, right? I can't count how many times I have an application that, you know, just gives so much push service I turn it off. And you know, if you overuse it and I turn it off, it's of no value. So if you are going to use the push service, do me a favor and don't overuse it. So we've got all these services. Now some of you may be sitting there going, you know, okay, got it, but none of those services really meet the need of my application because I want to integrate maybe with other applications on the system or some other device hardware. Well, we also will qualify things that use our invocation network. Our invocation framework is a way for other applications to communicate with other applications. Basically, it's a way for you to register your application as a provider of some service. So, for instance, if I'm in the browser and there's a PDF file, right? I click that PDF file. It's not the browser that's loading that PDF file. The browser calls the invocation network and says, hey, I got a PDF file. Who can load this for me? So you've got a way to be able to communicate with other applications or be a service to other applications. You can have yourself registered as an invocation target so that people can then ask, other applications can ask you. We saw yesterday about the invocation framework and the cards, how applications can be inserted into other applications through the invocation network and the cards so that you have your application looking like it's running inside another application that looks just like it. If you want to integrate with NFC, right? You guys doing the scavenger hunt? Oh, I took my tag off. Doing the scavenger hunt, right? That's all NFC stuff. So if you want to integrate with the NFC chip, we count that as a service integration. And for you gamers out there, we have ScoreLoop out here, which is our basically social gaming integration engine. It allows you to do leaderboards, post challenges, have user profiles, awards, and achievements. So you guys who are writing your games, your native games, integrate with Score Loop, and that goes ahead and counts. So for all of you with cameras, here's the summary slide. You need to, as your application, you need to integrate with at least one of these services. Payment service, BBM Social Platform, advertising service, analytics, the location service, maps, push service, invocation framework, NFC, or Score Loop. So if you're building a built for BlackBerry application, you have to integrate with at least one. You can integrate with more than one, but you have to do at least one. Now, if you're building a game, we strongly urge you to integrate with Score Loop, but you don't necessarily have to. So if you're building a game, you don't have to have one service integrated, but we do recommend that you do. Security. One of the hallmarks, one of the pillars of BlackBerry is all about security. So we worry about security and what goes on. For the Built for BlackBerry program, it's about being good to your users. It's about not doing sneaky things, right? Make sure that you notify them when you're making payments. Make sure you're accessing, if you're accessing context, you get approval. All of these are built into the system where you've got to make recommendations. Even on the location, the geolocation app for like a WebWorks app, you've got to put in a permission that says, yes, I got to ask for this permission. So it's about being good to your users. You also need to provide a privacy policy. The privacy policy can be uploaded in your vendor portal information and linked off of there, but you need to provide a privacy policy. And I've had a couple people who said, oh, privacy policy, now I got to talk to lawyers and all that stuff. There are a lot of privacy policies that are available now, right? You can pop out on the web, do a Google search. So you need to make sure you've got a privacy policy that alerts the users to how you're going to be using their information. Finally, they're games. So some of you who are game developers, you've been looking at this stuff going, well, I'm not going to get built for BlackBerry because some of these things just don't apply to games. And we understand that. So there are a couple things where we make some exceptions with games. First of all, if you're going to build a game and you're not necessarily going to use those SDKs I mentioned, you've got maybe another platform or you have your own gaming platform, you need to make sure that you're using platforms that are specifically built for BlackBerry, like Gameplay, Unity, Marmalade, Shiva, or Unreal. If you have your own game platform, that's okay. As long as it still gives a good BlackBerry 10 experience, that will still qualify for built for BlackBerry. Now, if you use your own game platform, we may do a little extra testing to make sure your game platform is solid as well. But we don't want you to think, oh, well, you know, we've got all our internal stuff, we're not going to qualify. You'll still qualify. It's all about making that great built for BlackBerry experience. Also, if you're taking a game and you're directly porting it over, remember, there's a lot of things that games don't have to do on here as far as UI goes. So the port over from another operating system, another device, we're going to go ahead and take a look at how that did and make sure that it's a good quality game, that your users have given at least a 4 out of 5 star platform. So now we get to the fine print. To qualify, you need to do a couple of things. You need to agree to the 10K developer commitment terms and conditions. Not a shocker, right? We've got a bunch of legalese out there where they can go through and you can be able to see what the terms and conditions and the information are. You need to submit your application for the Built for BlackBerry program. As I said, the Built for BlackBerry program is separate from the 10K program. You can submit as many applications as you like for this program. You will only get paid out on one application for the 10K program. But you can have as many Built for BlackBerry programs as you want. Your application needs to generate at least $1,000 in the first 12 months that it's available. This is either through paid downloads, in-app purchases, through the BlackBerry payment services. The in-app purchases must be through the BlackBerry payment services if you want to qualify for in-app purchases. And of course, that also qualifies as your service integration. Okay? You also need to have at least 100 unique downloads. You can't build an application, put it in the store for $1,000, call your mom and say, hey, Mom, buy this, we're going to split the 9K, right? Can't do that. We need to make sure that you're putting some effort forward, right? So 100 unique downloads, $1,000 in the first month. You have to remain for sale for the entire 12 months of the program, basically from launch to 12 months later. You have to remain sale out there, so you've got it out there for you. I also have to tell the lawyers that I have to say that this is a limited funds offer and will continue until the fund is expended. So now you're going to ask me, how are we going to prioritize all the different applications? It all revolves around those 1,000 unique down. Oh, look at this, I got a laser. Ah, oh, that's cool. It all revolves around these $1,000 threshold. What we're going to do is we're going to prioritize the apps in an order of payment based on which ones got to the $1,000 first. So the faster you get to the $1,000, the higher up you are in the queue. Now, we're betting that we're not going to have to pay out a lot because we think you're going to make the money anyways. But the faster to the $1,000, the higher up you are in the queue. Yeah.
Is that the same for those with multiple built for BlackBerry apps? Whichever one sells $1,000 first becomes your 10K commitment.
Are you a plant? Okay, no, because that was my next point. Yeah, absolutely. So when we talk about multiple applications, it's about that $1,000, exactly as he said. It's about that $1,000. So if you give me 10 applications, the first application that makes the $1,000 payout, that's the one we're going to pay on, unless that application makes $12,000. Then we're going to go to the next one that made the $1,000. So I don't want you to think, oh my goodness, the app that qualified by getting the 1,000 first made me $10,000, so now I'm out of the program. No, we'll go to the next one down. So they'll be ordered for that as well. Also, applications that are funded by RIM are not available, are not eligible for this program. Okay? Yeah.
How that multiple applications are allowed, how I understood was like you can pool the money made from multiple apps to get to 1,000. Is that not right?
No, each app has
to make its own 1,000.
Each application has to make its own 1,000. That's correct. Okay, so we're going to do some questions, but before we do that, let's go run through a little example so we can see how this would play. This is my Zen Lottery app. It's what I like to do when I learn new technologies. I write a little lottery app. It generates random numbers, Powerball and Mega Millions. But and the random numbers are based on its own random number generator I wrote that's based on a seed. And it's a Zen lottery because I base that seed on your location. So I grab your geolocation, I munge it through the secret sauce program, and I create a seed, and that generates random numbers. So hypothetically, if you're in the same location, you generate the same numbers. It has the ability to save your favorites, and I built this entirely in our WebWorks using BBUI.js. If you haven't heard about BBUI.js, I think Tim did a session this morning. You should look it up. It's pretty cool. It's a way to get the BlackBerry 10 look and feel into WebWorks applications, the Cascade stuff. So, does this qualify for built for BlackBerry? Well, let's have a look, shall we? We have this cool thing out there on the website that's called the developer checklist. Looks just like this. It allows me to go through and take a look at all the different areas of this that it works. So, first of all, our first section here in the built for BlackBerry is the user benefits. Well, you know, lottery's pretty entertaining, so one could argue that we are providing some kind of entertainment value there. They can save them, they can bring them back, so we have some kind of entertainment value there. So check. User experience, built for the form factor. Well, we've got a little bit of white space in there, but that's, you know, we could adjust that. We've got a very focused on the content, so it works well in the landscape mode, so we'll call that a good built for the form factor. We're focusing on the content, clearly the numbers. It's all about the drawing of the numbers here. So we've got these numbers that fit. They're the big content. And how to make the draws, okay, we'll call it that. Okay. Gestures and flow. Well, you know, static images are tough to tell. But I do know that if I swipe up from the BlackBerry on the bottom, right, I get the little peak, right? So that's a nice little gesture. So that counts, right? No. It doesn't count. Every application gets peak built by default. You can put any application together and you always get peak. So granted, peak is a very strong feature of BlackBerry 10, but it doesn't count for built for BlackBerry because it's built into the operating system. So we want this to qualify. So what we can do, well, I also have the ability to save favorites, I said. So maybe what I do is in the favorites list, when I go ahead and click on them, I can put in a peak gesture here. So now that I've gone to the specifics of a certain favorite, I can then use the peak gesture to peek back at where I am. So here I've implemented the peak gesture that allows me to look back and forth and gives me a good flow between the favorites that I've saved and the actual specific numbers that I've got there. So this will then go ahead and qualify. Okay. What about application navigation? Pretty simple application navigation. We've got the action bar down here at the bottom. Down here at the bottom, we've got the action bar, right? We've got an overflow menu for the settings, which is we could see on the previous screen. So a lot of the extra stuff is hidden away, and it's all about the focus of what we want to be able to do. And does it do progress feedback? Well, in this case, there's no progress feedback that needs to be done. There's no downloads, there's no pause. When you generate the numbers, there would be a big progress feedback if there's a delay, but it's mostly pretty quick. So there's no delay there. So, what about the performance? Well, again, we would have to go through and run some tests on the performance, but we take a look at the CPU performance. It's not using a lot of CPU. I mean, it's a pretty simple application. Generates a random number, puts some things up. Not bad, right? Memory, as long as I'm not doing anything goofy, like making huge array calls to store a whole bunch of information and then store only 4 or 5 numbers in there, we can take a look at the memory. Make sure I'm not grabbing a whole bunch of memory at the very beginning and not releasing it. The network, there's no network component to this, so it passes the network. The battery, let's see, the battery is one that I might have a problem with. Because in this case, I'm only really interested in the geolocation when somebody actually makes a draw for the numbers, right? So if my application is coded in such a way that as soon as you bring it up, I start pulling the GPS information every second, that's going to draw down the battery, and I don't need to do that. So this application may fail on the battery side if I didn't develop it correctly. So we may get a bad battery report on this, and I've got to come back and say, hey, listen, you're draining a lot of battery on this. And I'll go back and look and say, oh, you know what? I really don't need to do the GPS polling except when I do a draw. So I'll change my code, the battery usage will go down, and we'll be happy. Service integration? Service integration. Well, there's no payment service. You can't buy tickets through here. I don't have a BBM, although that could be easy, right? I could have a BBM integration there that says, okay, share this with my friends, share the numbers of where I got. That would be kind of cool. But I didn't do that. I don't have any ads in there. I don't have any analytics service. But I am using the GPS location. So I do have the location services in there. So I've integrated with the location services to get the triangulation or to get the GPS. So I qualify for the service integration. And finally, let's see, we've got be good to my users. All right, my application is not doing anything intentionally harmful to the users. It doesn't access any of the contact information. It doesn't do any payments without their approval. Okay, that works. Provide a privacy policy. Well, if you go to my vendor, well, actually, I don't have a vendor portal. I'm not allowed to have one. But if I had a vendor portal, I could have a privacy policy out there. And in addition, because I'm a big fan of the privacy things as well, I've even added a privacy policy link in the application. So I've got one in the application. So I've done double duty there. So I've been good to the users. I've provided them with the privacy information. Check. Okay. And what else we got? Games. Well, it's not a game. It's an entertainment, but it's not a game per se. So I don't have to worry about the game engine because I actually built it with WebWorks, so it doesn't even qualify for the game engine. And it's not a port, so there's no competitor port analysis. So that just leaves us revenue, right? So net revenue generated in the first 12 months. So let's say I get my 100 downloads over the first 12 months. And during that period, I sell this app for, I don't know, $4.99. So my revenue share, my net revenue share, comes out to be right around $500. So if I make $500 in my first 12 months, what's my payout under the 10K program? 0. How come? I didn't make $1,000. I didn't make $1,000, so I get 0. Bummer. So I get a little more viral about it. I get more people out there because I know this is going to happen. So in the first 12 months, now I make $1,000. What's my payout now? $9,000. That's right. The payout becomes $9,000 because it's the differential, right, between the 10,000. Come on, it's not hard math. Okay, yeah, do you have a question?
So, I mean, by doing this, you're actually sort of promoting people to make paid apps. If you want to build free apps, you don't qualify?
Free apps qualify if you have in-app payment services, so something within the application for you pay for. But yeah, this is built around paid applications. Yeah. Yeah. If I make $5,000, how much do I get paid? 5,000. There we go. You know that calculator I showed you earlier? You can bring it out and take a look. Yeah.
Free apps. If you have it built for BlackBerry and then a few months past the date, you then add in that.
We'll talk about the dates. The dates are pretty hard. You've got to do it up front. Yeah, absolutely up front. And actually, Philip, you bring up a good point. It's just for the 10K payout. The Built for BlackBerry, you can do free apps for Built for BlackBerry. That's fine too. And then the last one, if we make $12,000 because I'm real good at marketing and I got this out there, how much do I get paid? 0. Right. Remember, the 10K program is not we're financing your app. It's a cushion there. It's an insurance policy for you to realize that you're going to make at least $10,000. We're betting you're going to make the money without any problems. That we're not going to have to pay it out. But just in case you don't, we've got this insurance policy for you. So the important thing is the key dates. Starting right now, well, most of you are already registered for a vendor, but starting right now, you want to register as a vendor, register your signing keys, and start building your applications. You can do that right now. Then you want to submit them and get them approved through BlackBerry World. We talked yesterday about the Geek 1010, right? BlackBerry 10 apps on 1010 and App World. So starting October 10th, you can submit your applications for App World testing. Remember, that's the first step that needs to happen. Don't dilly-dally on that, because the hard date is January 21st, 2013. By January 21st, 2013, you have to request for Built for BlackBerry testing if you want to qualify for 10K. If you're not concerned about 10K, you can request the Built for BlackBerry testing whenever, because the Built for BlackBerry testing application goes on. But if you want to qualify for 10K, you must request Built for BlackBerry testing by January 21st, 2013. Now, this is why I said don't dilly-dally with App World, because the way the process works is you cannot submit for Built for BlackBerry testing until after you've been approved for App World. So if you work on your app and you get it done on the 20th, and you're like, this is great, I got it done on the 20th, I'll submit it for BlackBerry App World, and then tomorrow I'll do Built for BlackBerry testing, chances are you're going to miss. Because the BlackBerry App World testing can take up to 8 business days. Now, it may be shorter, it may be, for you, but I'm telling you, if you want to make the 10K program, make sure that you get it into App World as soon as you can after the 10th. Okay? Then you'll need to go back in and go to your app manager and request Built for BlackBerry testing after you're approved.
What if we build something and want to get it, and we want to put up an App World before the 10th? Will it still qualify? Because it still won't be available for sale until
The official App World won't take applications till after the 10th. You can put them in the dev zone, for the share amongst the dev alpha people, but you still have to submit it into BlackBerry after the 10th. Okay. That's when we'll start taking BlackBerry 10 applications. So, more cameras out. Here's the nutshell slide, right? Basically, BlackBerry 10 applications have to be in App World by January 21st and approved, marked request for BlackBerry testing. You need to make at least $1,000 USD out of your net revenue share in the first 12 months. You need to have 100 unique downloads. You need to be a well-behaved application. Be a good citizen on the device. You need to integrate with at least one BlackBerry 10 service, unless you're a game. And you need to qualify for all the Built for BlackBerry criteria. Yes, sir.
So you said on our net revenue share. So if we put an app up for $1, what's our net revenue share of that?
Our is 70 cents, 69 cents, 69 cents. So you get 69 cents off of that dollar. And then that 69 cents counts towards the 10K program. Okay. Which brings us to the world famous question and answer. Do we have other questions? Any other questions? Yes, sir.
You mentioned that you can make this with cost of the app or with in-app purchases. You
Yep.
also mentioned that there was an advertising platform. Would that also count? Money made through the advertising platform, does that count towards?
Yes, it does. Right? No, it doesn't?
No, it's not.
No. So it's just the in-app purchases, and the paid downloads will count. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead. You can go twice in a row.
No, it's just forming it. obviously it's retested for the store, but does it need to be retested for Built for BlackBerry also?
It truly depends on how big the update is, right? We may go through and retest it for Built for BlackBerry. If you've made some major changes, maybe you've added a networking component or something like that, then clearly we need to figure out that needs to be retested. But we're going to take that on a case-by-case basis.
I have two questions, serious one and one not so serious.
Okay.
Serious question, how are these apps that are built for BlackBerry going to be differentiated within App World?
Couple of things. We're going to have logos that are provided for your website to be able to do that. And then we are currently working with AppWorld on being able to identify them within AppWorld itself.
Yeah, discoverability would be really good.
Absolutely.
Okay, and less serious question, when are we getting that calculator on our Dev Alphas?
It's not on your Dev Alpha? Really?
The calculator he had on slides.
Oh,
Well, that's not good. Well, it was on my alpha, but my alpha is not. Mine's a A, so I had it on my A.
It's not on my A.
Wow. Then I don't know. It is a cool calculator, though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it looks like just an upgrade for the playbook.
Yeah, basically, it's a port over. Yeah. Okay. Anybody have any other questions?
I have a related question.
Yeah.
Would things like calculator apps count for Built for BlackBerry? Because there was a huge flood of those on the playbook.
Yeah, absolutely. If they qualify for what's going in there, I mean, we're not taking the stance to say, oh, we've got 17 of these already and built for BlackBerry. If it qualifies for the criteria, it's going to be a built for BlackBerry app.
And how about general visual appearance?
You need to follow the BlackBerry UX guidelines, the user experience guidelines. It needs to look like a BlackBerry 10 application. So your radio buttons need to be formatted as a BlackBerry 10 application.
But if the general graphic assets are kind of ugly, it would still be approved?
So you're saying,
Let's say that someone makes a game with really terrible graphics but meets all the UI guidelines, would that still actually be approved?
well, if you have like low resolution graphics and fuzzy graphics, they're not going to meet the UI guidelines.
Oh, well, if they're high resolution, just they can't draw, or just for sake of argument.
Well, it depends. I mean, is that the look they're looking for? I mean, there's all kinds of stick figure games out there.
I have examples of playbook things I've come across that are just terrible, but they meet the UI guidelines. They're just, you don't want to actually use them.
Okay. Well, I mean, yeah. We'd have to look at that line. I mean, you're telling me that you've got an application that is so unattractive that it's unusable?
And it's not unusable, it's just something you wouldn't use.
Right. So that doesn't necessarily fit the BlackBerry 10 user experience, right? Remember the three things up there? One of them was beautiful app experience. So that wouldn't necessarily fit the beautiful app experience. Now, if it's a look they're trying to get, is some kind of, grungy, edgy kind of look they're trying to get, then we may have to have a conversation with that developer around that. But, we're looking for applications that really shine on the BlackBerry 10 platform.
That's what I'm hoping for. That's why I was trying to clarify that ugly apps are not going to make it.
Yeah, right. Anything else? Okay. A couple other things before I let you go. For those of you who are looking at this kind of stuff and thinking, there are some really good sessions out here. Jam 24, Jam 43 are both about performance. 24 is about native performance. 43 is about web performance. So for those of you who are looking to perform your apps, I would look at those. Also, 6 o'clock tonight, myself and Nancy will be at the Ask the Experts tables. So if you have other questions that pop up, you can feel free to drop by then or grab us at any time. Well, not really grab, but, tap on the shoulder and say, excuse me, can I ask you a question? And, we'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you've got. My name is, there's the round table and they gave me this slide. I didn't put this slide in. I expected to have a last slide. So join the round table at 6 o'clock tonight. I said that. Continue the conversation on this with BB Jam and Jam 44. Download the BlackBerry guide. Also, don't forget to give the reasons to believe for the 10K booth space. There we go. That's me. I'm Tom Anderson, and this is Nancy McMillan. Okay. Anything else? I thank you for your time. Enjoy the rest of the show.